Water and Sanitation Minister Nkwinti in 2018 conceded to MPs that the department he inherited from Nomvula Mokonyane was a mess. There were 160 municipalities that hadn't paid their water bills. Things didn't improve under Lindiwe Sisulu, with the National Rapid Response Task Team billing over 3.7 million rand in travel and accommodation expenses. This is between March 2019 and the state of disaster period. For an update, we're joined by Water Affairs and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's begin with your assessment. You've crisscrossed the country. We've seen you going to different areas to speak to residents. What has been the assessment that you've made?
Well, firstly, the assessment is that we, being as a water-scarce country, we tend to have more demands than what the country can provide in terms of water resource. But let's put that aside. Let's come to management. When it comes to management, we still can manage access to water, in other words, distribution of water, better than we are doing at the moment. From ourselves, from the water boards, from the water authorities. And indeed, when you say we are not necessarily as a whole country in a crisis, you must mind and make an exception, minding that there are certain areas and certain parts of the country that are in real crisis. There are certain villages, certain households that are in a crisis. But overall, if we can manage what we have better, indeed it can show that even though we're a water-scarce country, but at least we are making up with management, and that's the direction that we're taking. But I'll come back to say that we need to put our hands on capacity. We need to put our hands on a number of things inside the department in terms of the kind of skills that people have there. 8,000 in total, but just more than that, but only 800 are technical, like engineers and so on. Now, this is a situation that we have to correct. But just directly to your question, yes, there are areas and people that are desperate for water. And so far, where we have intervened, we've been able to overcome the problems. For instance, here in Swane, we've been able on two main areas that had a problem of water. We've been able, working with Rand Water, working with the municipality, to direct things such that we overcome the crisis situation that had overcome. The last one was, of course, Lodium, which by my check last night, we were at 37% in terms of the water levels. And we think that by today, things should have become better, and we just have to coordinate and make sure that we avail water to everybody all the time.
Talking about availing water to everybody all the time, there's a project that is really worrying. In fact, it's a failure, if I have to even use that word. In 2009, we saw Giyani in Muyeshe village, to be exact, becoming the nodal project for then former President Jacob Zuma, who said that officials need to do everything they can in order to ensure that water is given to that community without compromise. I remember, fast forward in 2013, I was part of the media then that was there while he was assessing the progress that had been made. It's one of the areas that you visited, Giyani, where we still are seeing this community without water. Billions of rands have been spent, and still nobody is behind bars for this project. This is also contributing to the crisis that villages are finding themselves with.
Yes, of course. It's a very concerning situation as you explain it, and everything that you have said is true. but we've now intervened, and we take our intervention seriously and decisively, and it would be sustainable, and it will deliver water to Guyana people. Next week, as a matter of fact, I'm going back to Limpopo on the 8th, and there are only two issues that we are attending to. The first one is Guyana, just to make to check progress that will have been made by the time we arrive there, from the time we got there. But secondly, we will be looking at water around Sekhukhune and the supply of water to the villages in that area, up to Polokwane and covering Khalakwena and all the areas. That's what we're going to be concluding, hopefully, so that work will then be starting. But on what you are saying, that there's no one behind bars, you may be aware that SIU has confirmed that they have completed the investigations, that they are putting the last crosses and dots on the last, in terms of finalizing the report that will go to the president. But there are people who got arrested and they are going through their cases. I think there are 3, if I'm not mistaken, or 4 of them, high-ranking officials that were involved in the saga. But look, we're determined to put all of that behind us and put water in front of us. That's a major matter between us and the people of Guyana. And we have made an undertaking, a firm undertaking, that we will deliver water to them. And that's why I'm going there to make to check progress.
And we saw some.
We're not going to wait until the pipe gets right to the last village. Wherever we pass, and once we are sure that water can be allowed in, then we start supplying some of the 55 villages.
What do you say to residents who are looking, and from Guyana, because we saw some of them come out to say they hope that this is not just so they can vote, in a way that they vote for the political party which you represent when you're not in government, but they're hoping that this is going to be something more sustainable, because they've been waiting for consistent water supply since 2009 and even earlier.
Let me just take a leaf out of what you're saying. On Saturday, I was in Venyane, which is a village outside Ndabankulu town in the Eastern Cape. And so when I get there, 2 of their boreholes are not functional. And it has been time since they last got water. Now, they then got to know that I was coming here, I was coming there, and they gathered. And then, indeed, they started one by one indicating what their problems are and how bad the situation is, having to hire cars to buy water from town. Now, I then addressed that. Now, what I did is the following day on Sunday, I chaired a meeting, and that meeting resulted into one water tank supply and attendance to those particular schemes. I'm waiting for a report that will tell me that those water schemes, boreholes, have been revived and they are now working. Now, you are not electioneering. I think the people who are accusing us of, or even mentioning that, are people who have supply of water and there's plenty of water where they are and they have no problem. But to those who are actually desperate and may have had their water cut because of one reason or the other, they would cry if they are told we are there electioneering, and if there are complaints and they are telling us their issues is also part of electioneering. The reality is this. Our approach right now is that where there's no water, when we get to know that there's a place where there's no water, we go there. we address the matters. Where there are problems of sanitation, just like I've been getting another sanitation problem in Cape Town, where a person is saying he doesn't know how long he has been talking to the MEC there and to the councillor in the city of Cape Town. Now we're going to have to intervene there because they no longer stay in their house because their house is full of sewage. So when we come across problems, our approach is that we're going to attend to those problems promptly, just like we did in Swane, Laudium, and the surrounding areas. They have not been getting water. We called a meeting on Friday, and we chaired that meeting, and that resulted into the problem being overcome. And I looked at TV yesterday. One of the MMCs there was saying since that meeting between us and themselves and Rand Water Board, the problems are being overcome, and that's what we're doing. But on the medium term, we need to attend to those issues as well, because we're not going to be running around the whole term. We need to stabilize the whole system.
Matangwan, I'm going to ask you to pause for a second for us, and we'll continue with our conversation in just a moment as we round up. Let's continue our conversation with Water Affairs and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu. Thank you so much, Minister, for staying on. One of the areas we saw you, and we covered the story extensively here on Newzroom Afrika, was Kroonstad, where you were there and you were quite shocked. I mean, it was visible even on cameras that, 10 million rand was needed for the treatment of, that water plant in order for residents to be able to, really get the kind of water and the quality of water that they deserve. And we then spoke to some of the residents in the streets, and they were saying that, they have sewage, in their homes, they have inconsistent water supply. What is the latest with that particular area, and is there anyone who's going to be held accountable for that?
It is important to mention that when we got there, we were told that about 2016, Kroonstad was given 22 million by Department of Water and Sanitation. And they fixed that wastewater treatment plant, but then they didn't maintain it. It broke down gradually up to a point where it came to a standstill. I asked who was responsible. I was told that the person who was responsible has since been given a job in the Free State government, which people made it sound like it was promotion. Now, let me put that aside and go straight to this matter. I investigated the whole of that thing. As a result of the non-functionality of that wastewater treatment plant, they had to divert the waste into the Vals River, which then ends up in the Vaal River, which then makes it one of the spots where the Vaal River is polluted. We then held a meeting with the residents there, with the municipality, with the provincial government. We then resolved to fix that with speed. After a week, we held another meeting, and that was the final meeting that we held, resulting into money being made available, part of it from the municipality, because municipalities that have problems, there's just no way they are going to escape having to put money on the table whenever there's a problem. We don't carry money from national. Things are allocated for this year. So when there's a problem, it must be fixed, yes, but they have to pop up money, and provincial government did so, and we're grateful for that. We also assisted. And what is now happening, they have appointed a service provider. There's a specific time frame. There's a task team that is monitoring, because what we're not going to do this time, we're not going to put public money into a project and not monitor it from beginning up to the end, to make sure that each and every cent that we put there works for the people to whom the service is due. And we're going to monitor it in terms of milestones up to the end of that, and then we'll go to the second phase. But our main target is to stop sewage from spilling over to the Vals River and ultimately to the Vaal River. and we're dealing with that particular problem. And in the Free State, I must say, we also have a task team attending to Machabeng. They've started working. We're waiting for the report. But at the same time, we're also dealing with Maluta Pofung. So we're dealing with all these hotspots decisively, sustainably, and together with the communities and the municipalities. But I must mention that in our consultations as we went around, we made it clear there's Section 63, which empowers the Minister of Water and Sanitation, that he carries or she carries the responsibility in line with the Constitution, meaning that it's our responsibility, which we accept from the Constitution, that we need to provide water and sanitation to all communities. Now, if we have a partner in the form of a municipality, but they have their own problems which make them unable to deliver, we have said, we are making it clear that we are going to take up, invoke Section 63, tie it up with Section 139, and take the pipe past the municipality right to the communities. There's no two-way about that. So in other words, we're not going to collapse with a collapsed municipality and then fail to deliver on our mandate. We are going to guard it jealously and make sure that we deliver to the people of South Africa.
I wonder what measures are being put in place to deal with the water boards, because that has also been another concern when it comes to the Department of Water and Sanitation. There's been, claims of, governance failures, financial mismanagement, unpaid debt, and this has been hindering their ability to perform the duties that they need to perform. I wonder what strategy is being put there to ensure that these are functioning in the manner in which they should.
I've met 4 water boards in the visits to provinces. Next week we are meeting Rand Water on the 5th, and then thereafter we'll go to KZN to meet Mgeni. Out of the 4 water boards that we have met, there's only one that I thought that it was really functional, without sicknesses all over. The 3 others that we met, they are sick, from vacancies in critical positions to lack of capacity, to projects that are either incomplete or have taken very long and still incomplete, but maybe not abandoned. We've had to intervene here and there, but they range from lesser sicknesses to really very sick, to a point where you could say that this water board is basically in ICU. We have taken resolutions on all of them in terms of their sicknesses. We are going to be fixing them. We've started. I'm with the executive management tomorrow, just to get progress in terms of where they are. Some of these water boards have investigations. I mean, one water board is being investigated by the public protector, by the Hawks, and by SIU. And that's not the duty of Department of Water and Sanitation to run with police files and dockets and all of those things and supervising cases. That's not our job. Our job is to deliver water. But because of lack of integrity and ethics in the manner in which some of the people that work for water are doing or have done, then we end up in all of these things. And by the way, this goes up to the Department of Water and Sanitation. There are quite a number of officials, some of them senior officials, who are either going through internal investigation or external investigation. This is something that we are prioritizing and want to get rid of it and deal with water and sanitation and nothing else.
All right. Minister, thank you so much for your time this evening. We certainly do appreciate it, and we'll keep tabs on some of this progress, because it's really quite concerning, some of what has come out in the areas, especially when we looked at what you've had to uncover as you were crisscrossing the country. That was Water Affairs and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu.